dared to stare, unveiling the shadows of fear on fear files.
The weight of the ancient book pressed heavily in Eleanor's hands as she made her way back to her cottage, her mind racing with the revelations she had uncovered. The fog clung to her like a malevolent presence, whispering secrets she could almost decipher. She knew the time for confrontation had come, and she was determined to end the cycle of darkness that gripped Brackenmoor. Eleanor spent the night poring over the book's contents, learning the specifics of the dark rituals and the pact that had cursed the village for generations. She found details on how the sacrifices were conducted, the incantations spoken, and the role of the Reverend in maintaining the pact. But most importantly, she found hints on how the pact could be broken. A counter-ritual that required the same elements as the original, but performed with the intent to sever the bond rather than strengthen it. As dawn broke, the first light of day barely penetrated the thick fog, casting an eerie glow over the village. Eleanor knew she needed to act swiftly. The children were in danger, and the malevolent spirit would not rest until it had claimed its due. With the ancient book clutched tightly in her hands, she set out for the church, the focal point of Brackenmoor's dark legacy. The church loomed ahead, its Gothic spire piercing the fog like a dark sentinel. As Eleanor approached, she noticed the door was ajar, a faint light spilling out into the mist. She stepped inside, the cold air of the church enveloping her. Reverend Thorn stood at the altar, his back to her, the flickering candlelight casting long shadows on the stone walls. "Reverend Thorn," Eleanor called out, her voice echoing in the cavernous space. The Reverend turned slowly, his eyes narrowing as they met hers. "Miss Blackwood," he replied, his voice smooth and controlled. "What brings you here at this early hour?" Eleanor stepped forward, holding up the ancient book. "I know about the pact, Reverend. I know about the sacrifices, the dark rituals. It ends today." Reverend Thorn's expression shifted, a flicker of anger crossing his features. "You know nothing, Miss Blackwood. The pact is necessary. It is what keeps Brackenmoor safe." "Safe?" Eleanor's voice trembled with emotion. "You call this safe? The children live in fear. The village is haunted by whispers and shadows. This is not safety. It's a curse." The Reverend's eyes darkened. "The pact has protected this village for generations. You have no idea of the power you're meddling with." Eleanor took a step closer, her resolve unwavering. "I do know. I've read the records. I've seen the mausoleum. I've felt the whispers. The spirit demands sacrifices, but it's not protection. It's bondage. And I will free this village from its grasp." Reverend Thorn's face twisted with fury. "You foolish woman! You think you can defy a power older than this village, older than you can comprehend? The pact is not something you can simply break." "I'm not alone in this," Eleanor said, her voice steady. "The children, the villagers, they all want to be free. I have the counter-ritual, and I will perform it." The Reverend's eyes widened, a glimmer of fear breaking through his anger. "You cannot! I won't allow it!" Eleanor stepped forward, opening the book to the page with the counter-ritual. "You can't stop me, Reverend. This ends now." As she began to recite the incantation, the air in the church grew heavy, the temperature dropping sharply. The candles flickered wildly, their flames dancing in an unseen wind. Reverend Thorn lunged at her, but Eleanor sidestepped, her voice growing stronger as she continued the ritual. The fog outside thickened, pressing against the stained glass windows, casting eerie shadows that writhed and twisted. The whispers grew louder, more insistent, a cacophony of voices filled with anger and desperation. Eleanor felt a chill run through her, but she pressed on, her voice unwavering. Reverend Thorn grabbed her arm, his grip like iron. "Stop this, Eleanor. You don't understand what you're doing." Eleanor met his gaze, her eyes blazing with determination. I understand perfectly. I'm freeing Brackenmoor from its curse. With a final, forceful incantation, she completed the ritual. The church shuddered, the very foundation seeming to quake as the power of the pact was challenged. Reverend Thorn cried out, a primal scream of rage and fear, and the whispers reached a fever pitch before abruptly falling silent. The fog outside began to dissipate, the oppressive weight lifting from the village. The temperature in the church began to rise, the warmth of the morning sun piercing through the remaining mist. Eleanor stood tall, the book still clutched in her hands, as Reverend Thorn fell to his knees, defeated. "It's over," she said softly, a sense of profound relief washing over her. "The spirit's hold is broken." Reverend Thorn looked up at her, his eyes filled with a mix of hatred and resignation. "You've doomed us all," he spat. "Without the pact, the spirit will unleash its full fury upon us." Eleanor shook her head. "No, the spirit's power was bound to the pact. By breaking it, we've weakened it. The village will be free, and the children will be safe." As she left the church, the villagers began to emerge from their homes, their faces etched with uncertainty and hope. The fog had lifted, revealing a clear sky and the promise of a new beginning. Eleanor knew the road ahead would not be easy. The village had much to rebuild, many wounds to heal. But the darkness had been banished, and with it, the whispers that had haunted Brackenmoor for so long. The children ran up to her, their faces alight with joy and relief. Mary hugged her tightly, tears of gratitude in her eyes. "Thank you, Miss Blackwood," she whispered. "You saved us." Eleanor smiled, her heart full. "No, Mary, we saved each other." As the village came together, united in their newfound freedom, Eleanor felt a deep sense of fulfillment. She had faced the darkness and emerged victorious, bringing light to the shadowy corners of Brackenmoor. And as the sun rose higher in the sky, banishing the last remnants of the fog, Eleanor knew that the village's future was now bright with hope and possibility. Thank you for braving the unknown with us. Until next time, stay haunted.